let's see how we can implement a directional switch in our Redshift noise. Now, in this case, I'm using Cinema 4D, but the thing is, well, you can do the same thing with other DCCs. But for now, let's try to see here. What I have right now is a simple cube with a bit of filleting and a simple noise. The thing is, well, I like to vary this on X, Y, and Z, but the thing is, I don't want to use this scaling. I would like to use some sort of, well, axis change or axis chooser, right? So what I can do here is actually go for a user data. So for this object, I'm gonna create a user data integer, and I'm gonna call this axis. This will be an integer, and it will also be an integer, let's see, cycle. So we're gonna have a value of 1, and we're gonna call this x, a value of 2, we're gonna call this y, and the value of 3, we're gonna call this z. So what this does, it creates kind of like a list here, x, y, and z. So 1, 2, and 3, right? And I'm using 1, 2, and 3 for a very good reason. I'm gonna use a shader switch to drive actually this noise scale. Okay, so let's first get our user data here. So user, color user data. Okay, and I also need, color integer user data, and I also need some sort of a shader switch. So let's go for a switch here, and I'm gonna use the integer user data to actually vary this across various models or various geometries, right? And I can have in these different values here. So what I'm gonna do here is gonna go for a red for 1, 2 will be a green, and I'm gonna make sure that this is green, so pure green, nothing else. And I'm gonna explain in a second why we're doing this like that. So nothing, because when we're normalizing this, instead of having HSV, we're having RGB, so this will be 1, 0, 0. Right, and this will give me an axis. Okay, so that means I can use this value here, 1, it can be green, it can be blue, it can be whatever, and this should drive some values. So X, Y, Z, right? I can put this in white or black, it doesn't matter, I'm not using it. I'm using this integer user data, and I'm gonna call here this axis, right? So this should be exactly the same parameter that I have here in the user data. Then I'm gonna use a vector change range. Alright, so I'm gonna get this from 0 to 1, and I'm gonna say, okay, old were 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, what about the new ones? Well, I like to have some value for the min, some value for the max. I don't know yet. Let's not clan them. But because I kind of want a slider here instead of these 9 values, I'm gonna create 2 scalar nodes. So I'm gonna use an abs. I'm gonna put this on 1, rename it main scale, copy it, rename this one as well, max scale, and let's put this one on 5. So 1 and 5, these are the values that I want for min and max. So I can connect this to the new min and the max scale to the new max, and connect the vector change range to my coordinate general scale. Okay, and because it's a bit tricky, I have to admit, because I'm using R, G, and B here, I can use X, Y, and Z. Okay, it's a kind of a specific hack if you want, but it works. I'm doing this video to explain how and why it works. And the reason it works is because Here I'm getting 1, 0, 0, here I'm getting 0, 1, 0, and here I'm getting 0, 0, 1. And when it's 1, this says, okay, it was 1 here, right? Let's make it max range, because there's no variation, the other are 0. The same thing for red, the same thing for green. So I'm gonna get this only on one axis. That means if I start switching here, I can switch the X, Y, and Z. And I still have control here to my minimum and maximum values, right? I mean, yeah, maximum scale. Actually, they're repeats, they're not scaling. So, see, I can have this like 30, these are repeats, and this will work just fine. So let's put this on 40, for instance. So this is how you're actually switching things on axis. But as I said, this is a very specific solution, and it works because I'm using red, green, and blue here. Otherwise, you have to build something a bit more convoluted. I hope this works, and well, this works for you. And if you have any question, just ask them on the forum. Happy reshifting, guys. Cheers.